I don't care what your height is. When you got all of that kind of man, woo! Hi everyone, I'm Soraya Rhea, and thanks for tuning in for my review of Loveonstage Season 1, Episode 3. Where we left off with episode 2, we met 3 of the guys that will be chosen for the 3 lovely ladies for Season 1. Now we're meeting the rest of the men. But before we get to the rest of the men, we find out some very interesting information, and it's about Sherelle. What we find out is that after episodes 1 and 2 air, Sherelle lets Melissa and her team know that what they have shared about her is actually not true, and that is that she is not a virgin. So, I mean, I have questions. I'm just like, what? Newspapers, articles, magazines, whatever, they print retractions all the time. But I just feel like she was given this huge label of being a part of the purity movement and that she was this 36-year-old virgin. How did they get that wrong? Then those words never fell out of her mouth? Did she say something like, I have been a part of the purity movement. I was a part of the purity movement. Did she say, I am a part of the purity movement? And then they assumed that meant virginity. Now, one of the last things that Melissa said was, you're not a virgin, but you ain't no hoe either, which I was like, okay, I could see some people having, finding that statement a bit controversial, but whatever. I definitely question, how did they get that wrong? How? So for the duration of this episode, because it looks like these 3 episodes were filmed in one shot with the panel. So she's still referred to as the 36-year-old virgin. Now, let's get to the men. And we gonna meet the rest of the men, okay, in this episode. First, we meet a man named Jesus Victory. Jesus Victory. I mean, it sounds like the name of a song. Provided that truly is his last name. I mean, yeah, they went all in. Jesus Victory. Jesus Victory is your name. You know what? Amen and hallelujah. Jesus is 39 years old. He is a tattoo artist. One thing that he did share is that his hair is actually it looks very like a very fine, low haircut. That is actually tattooed. I'm gonna be honest, I was impressed because I did not know. Like the way that some people that don't know anything about wigs or anything like that, will be amazed when they find out that somebody's lace front is actually a wig and not their own hair. I mean, I was impressed. Homeboy got a hairline from here on out. Baldness for men. They got options. Jesus has a 21-year-old daughter. He says he's okay with dating someone who has a kid, but he definitely wants somebody to have a good relationship with their child's parent. Makes sense. I hear that. Jesus said that he grew up Christian, I would imagine. He kind of describes his relationship with God as being somebody who prays before he eats. He says he reads his Bible, but he respects other religions. For example, he sees the benefits of Ramadan as it relates to fasting. The only thing I will say with that is absolutely, respecting of just people in general and other religions and other belief systems, that's fine. But it's like, sir, have you ever heard of Jesus fasting for 40 days and 40 nights? Have you ever heard of Daniel and his, vegetable only diet? So I mean, I don't know. He kind of said it as though like there's this particular thing that is not available to Christians. People fast all the time in the Christian faith. But anyway, that he wants somebody to believe in something because we can't do this thing alone. So that's very broad and loosey-goosey to me. He says that he wants a minimalist. But yet he seems very refined and very meticulously put together to me. Everything is to a T, to a T, to a T. So I don't really buy the minimalist thing. I think he wants to maybe come off as low maintenance. He's definitely not that. He specifically says that he checks every box that ladies want. Humility, I don't think, is there. He's never been married. So let me just add that. After I watched the episode, I went into the comments, and the comments were mainly about him, and they were wild. They were talking about his chest being out because his shirt was very low cut. And I think he also had like a tattoo, almost like Eve's, the rapper Eve's tattoo. I feel like he had like a tattoo right here. Y'all, oh my gosh, people are so funny. Kev said he could see him with Aries. I felt Aries off the bat, initially because of his age, but I just kind of felt like, even look-wise, whatever, I felt like he could get with Aries. Stevan and Terlisha thought Bria. I for the life of me, I could not see why. It's over 10-year gap. I don't know. I don't know what they are looking at all. Next, we have Walter, who's 42 years old. Walter is retired from the military. He is now a barber, but he also hosts a weekly radio show. He seems to be kind of like a fun, bubbly guy. He is divorced. He has been separated for 3 years, but got divorced about 1.5 years ago. It was finalized. He said from his divorce or his marriage, he has learned that he needs to communicate his needs better. He says he's a clown and a nut. And I put in my notes that he says things like did. I'm sorry. I had to put that down. These ladies are highly intellectual. Ain't none of them say things like did. Okay, so I had to put that down. I think they would notice. He says he's a PK. So he's always in church. He believes in the structure of the man being the head and the woman is beside him. Kevin and Terlisha said that they thought that he would be a good match for Sherelle. Melissa brought up after his little segment was that he has 4 kids. Sherelle said she was only interested in dating somebody with like 1 or 2 kids. Anything more than that, it would be too much. So I think 4 kids just eliminates him from the competition. I also think that he's a little too quirky, a bit of a cornball. I don't think he's a match for any of the women. I don't know why they were even going hard and saying like, oh, I think he'd be a good one for Sherelle. I think they have this view that she is corny on some level because they still have this idea that Sherelle is this 36-year-old virgin. Then we have William, who is 34 years old. I think Terlisha said something like, oh, this is the Kappa guy. This is the Kappa. I don't know anything about Greek life. Very little. And I definitely don't know anything about rivals. Stevan is a Kappa. So he's like all of a sudden offended. Be like, oh, just because he's a Kappa, you think that, whatever. So I'm just like, okay, move on. Because who cares? Whatever. So William is a high school music teacher. He plays the trumpet and started a music conservatory, I believe, which teaches students about urban performing arts. He says that he has been in 3 relationships, and he says that means that his relationships have always been long-term. So he doesn't just like date around and just hop from one relationship to another. He's looking for somebody that believes in Jesus as their savior. So he's a Christian. He doesn't want anybody with children. When it comes to attraction, he says that he likes small features. So before this point, I actually thought like, oh, this seems like a really nice guy. Like he's got his stuff together, talented, I like a musician. But then he started talking about attraction. He starts saying, small features. Particularly, he says like nose and ears. And then he describes cookie from Empire, basically Taraji P. Henson. So he says he loves her look, but definitely not her attitude. He actually wants somebody that is high maintenance in that look. Like, he needs you to be able to dress the nines all the time so that when you go out, you always look like your best. I guess he's looking for some kind of trophy-ish type person. The small feature part, especially for someone like him, he's a kind of big guy with not small features. When you look at his face, where's his small features? It just reeks a bit of self-hate and that black self-hate kind of situation. I didn't like that. Ugh. Then he starts talking about what he's looking for, like, in a relationship, and particularly what he would look for with somebody, I guess, once you're living with them. He's like, if you cook, clean up after yourself. Like, he starts listing like roommate rules. Why do you already have this in your mind? Find the person first. That doesn't automatically mean that they're moving into your house, your space. Like, do you not think that they don't have their own expectations and what they have and their preferences? My gosh. Stevan thinks that he'd be a good match for Sherelle. Kev thinks he's not a match for anybody. Terlicia would give Sherelle a chance to meet him, but otherwise she thinks that he wouldn't be a match for anybody, which I just say, no, he's a no. Then there is Robert, who is 32 years old. Robert! I think Robert is cute. Robert is a web developer for NASA. He feels that in the past he's been very busy with work, busy with life, busy with, I think, starting businesses or something. I'd have to watch it again to see what he was saying. I think I was just kind of just watching him. Yeah, that has kept him from maintaining a relationship. He's looking for somebody who is in tune with God, having her own devotion. This is literally the way that he put it, so that then the two of them can come together and then worship together. I really like the way that he put that. He specifically says that he's attracted to intelligent women. He says that he has gone to therapy for himself. He says that he likes to write, and that's a form of his own personal therapy, or just a way to express himself, and that has given him an opportunity just to get to know himself over the years. I put in my notes, can we clone him? Can we clone Robert? Okay? Because Robert is doing the work. Let me tell you, Robert can be 5'4". He could be 5'3". He can be my height. We could be looking right here, Robert. I do not care. You know what I'm saying? Right here. I would take him right here. Right here, Robert. I don't care what your height is. When you got all of that kind of man, woo! When it comes to like physical attraction or whatever, he said that, he's looking for somebody who is health conscious, that is looking to take care of himself, be healthy. But of course, he wants to be attracted to, who he's with. The man is mature. This is a man. This is an adult. This is a grown-up. He's looking for somebody that is not living life with a kind of independent person or individual mindset, like, I don't need anybody, I could do it all by myself. No, he's looking for somebody that acknowledges and recognizes, like, no, I do need somebody. But I'm assuming that that's how he views it as well for himself, that he can't do it by himself, that he needs somebody as well. I was shocked at the panel's response. And at this point, I was just kind of like, I'm not listening to them really anymore. I was excited to see this kind of guy come up. I was just like, this is a top guy. Terlicia said that he's boring and that he's not adventurous. Stevan basically kind of agreed with her. They could acknowledge, like, yeah, I mean, he like kind of has good things, but he's boring. Kev kind of acknowledged what she was saying, but he was like, you're not going to get everything that you want in somebody. So, like, this is a good guy. So he thought that he would be good for Bria. Hands down, I was like, this is Bria's guy. I think he'd be good for Sherelle too. To me, he just screamed Bria. Tarlisha brought up the fact that Bria specifically had said that she wants an adventurous guy. Kev did make a point in the end where he says, like, be adventurous with your girlfriends. Stop trying to look for every single thing in your spouse. You're not going to get. Oh gosh, I'm going to say his name wrong. Elaine, I think it's Elaine, who's 31 years old. They never explicitly said what he does, but I want to say that he's in the Navy because that's the only thing that his application was sent in by his friend from the Navy. Melissa, right off the bat, kind of said, like, what are your non-negotiables? And the first thing he said was he's looking for an African queen. He said he loves Black women. He said he's looking for somebody who is health conscious, someone who is spiritual. He says that he believes in God, but he himself is not religious. When it comes to kids, he said he would love to have as many kids as possible, as the mother of his kids would, allow. And I was like, oh, Lord. But then we later find out that he actually already has a child who is 11 years old. So he's open to dating a woman who already has children. He does admit that he does not shoot his shot. So there definitely seems to be a common theme among these guys. So many of these guys who also willingly admit that, a friend encouraged them to sign up. Somebody signed them up. Whereas I don't think any of the women who signed up said anything like that. He describes himself also as a bit of a germaphobe. He says he washes his hands all the time. His, I think, mother and sister kind of say that he has a little bit of OCD. He says he knows where everything is, and if somebody moves it, he knows that it's been moved. I just know that not every man washes their hands. I mean, it could be kind of like something that is seen, depending on people's backgrounds, but I love a man that will just wash his hands for the proper 20 to 30 seconds and then just wash your hands for no reason. The panel basically throws him away, which shocked me as well. They basically laugh at him because he says African queen. And Tarlisha was like, what, is he a hotep? I couldn't believe what they were saying because I'm like, Kevonstage talks endlessly about how much he loves his Black wife. I'm like, did they think it was funny because he said African queen versus Black queen? I don't understand what was funny about that. Like, I mean, Kevonstage literally does this all the time. He praises Black women. The only thing he doesn't say is African women or African queens. He just says Black women. So I'm not really sure I don't know why did that make them laugh? I actually was really kind of annoyed and disturbed by their response to that. And then they just thought he was boring. Listen, I will take your boring men. For all of these literal, socially inept men that exist in the world, men that literally cannot talk and cannot hold a conversation at all, if this is who they're throwing away because they think they're boring, he's, to me, at the very least, he seems like a nice enough guy just to give him a chance. Give him a chance. And he's nice looking too. He didn't come off as a jerk. He didn't come off pompous or arrogant. I don't know. For some of the ways in which we can legitimately be like, step back, whatever. But for reasons of being maybe shy or just slightly boring, whatever, it's like, you know what? I'm sorry. If they're nice, let them through. Let them through. Anyway, moving right along. Then we have Terence. Terence is 35 years old, and I believe he works in insurance. Surprise, surprise. A friend encouraged him to apply. I felt like the panel got on some people, for example, with the last guy, Elaine. They were like, oh, and he needed somebody to get him to apply. Oh, but then this guy, they really liked him, but he shared that a friend encouraged him to apply. But then they didn't say anything about that. Terence is 35 years old. He's divorced, and has one kid. From his previous marriage, he was a stepdad to 2 daughters. He did share that he would prefer to not date somebody who has kids. He recognized that that is a double standard. And he said it's because he no longer has, I guess, a relationship with those stepkids, and he kind of doesn't want to go through that again. The panel is very understanding of his experience and his preference to not want to date anybody with kids. He says he does want someone that has a relationship with Christ. The only thing I will say about him saying that he recognizes that there's a double standard, and the fact that the panel understanding and be like, oh yeah, I get that. It's like, why is that any different from somebody who's never been married before, who doesn't want to date anybody with children? That's anybody's reason. It can be messy if things end, or it can be messy while the relationship is happening. Once you reach a certain age, it's very common that many of the people in your age group will already have children. So I'm not impressed by his, but this is the reason why I don't want to, is because I don't want to be hurt anymore. I'm hurt right now because I've now had this broken relationship between me and my stepkids, and I don't want to experience that again. Yeah, nobody wants to go through that. His experience is not unique. I actually don't understand why the panel is any more sympathetic to his experience rather than somebody who perhaps hasn't gone through it yet, but actually just wants to avoid it. It just so happens that he has experienced it and now doesn't want to experience it again. Like, what's the difference? Somebody who knows that this could happen and doesn't want to experience it and wants to avoid it versus someone who has experienced it and doesn't want to experience it again. I mean, to me, it's just the same thing. I mean, I did think he could be a good match with Sherelle, I guess. Aries, well, I guess, no, Aries has 2 kids, so he wouldn't be a good match. And I don't really see him matching with Bria, to be quite honest. Moving on. Then we have Brandon, who is 38 years old. He is in software project management. Surprise, surprise. Friends suggested that he sign up for the show. He shares his non-negotiables, which are, he's not looking for anybody who's closed-minded. He's looking for somebody that has a relationship with God. He's a Christian. He's looking for somebody who is family-oriented. He comes from a big family. I believe he is like the 10th of 11 children. Wow. When Melissa asked him what he thinks about submission, or what is his definition of submitting, he basically defines it exactly as it is defined in the Bible. Brandon could probably match with all of them, but I'm thinking Aries first, but then Sherelle too. I mean, Bria, well, probably not Bria. There's enough of the younger guys that I think could match with Bria. Lastly, we have Derek. I think it's pronounced Derek, but it's spelled Derek, who's 43 years old. He is looking for a God-fearing woman. He lets us know right off the bat. He says he is family-oriented. He's divorced. He's looking for someone who is loving and ready to be loved as well. He really just makes a point to say that they have to be equally yoked, otherwise it will not work. So he Christian. I mean, I'm not sure if that was any kind of source of his divorce, because I don't know why he kept going back to that. He says he has 2 daughters. He's open to having more children, but he's also very open to dating someone with children and having a blended family. I think that he's really more of a match for Aries when it comes to age. I guess Sherelle as well. He's giving me cornball. But I don't know. Let him give a, have a conversation with the women to see what his personality is like. I really didn't get a sense of personality, what he likes. He just gave us his family profile. That's all we learned. Oh, I guess he didn't tell us what he does or anything like that. Yeah. At the end of the episode, Melissa gives a public service announcement to the men of the world who, unfortunately, I do not think are watching this series. They're just going to have to hear it through all of the women who basically had to tell them to sign up for this show. And she basically tells them to shoot their shot. as lovely as I think that is, it's not going to make a difference. If men are going to listen to any kind of advice like that, it's going to have to come from another man. Shoot your shot, man? I don't know. Yeah, it would have to be a close male friend. You know, I don't even know if they would listen to Kevin Samuels if Kevin Samuels was telling them, shoot your shot. Let me know what you think about these guys. Comment below if you have been watching, guys. Is anybody out there watching? Is anybody out there? Anybody? Or are you just watching my reviews? I know I'm totally behind. So like the show is already like going on and the audience has voted, whatever. So I'm not participating in that part. I literally am just reviewing the show. So thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching. And I will see you guys next time. Bye. Robert.